listeners. Welcome to another episode of Nobody Asked Us with Des and Kara, presented by Brooks Running. There is an energy and a mood in the room today. And I went in big with that intro because I just feel like, we got to keep this vibe up and
I
high.
like it. I like that we're just going for it, even though we're both so tired.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's okay. Who needs sleep?
What is the saying? You can sleep when you die, sleep when
Sleep when
you're
you're
dead.
dead. Even though I hate that saying
Inching
because
closer to
yeah.
lack of sleep.
Yeah. Well,
Welcome home.
we're back in the States.
Yeah.
You got back Tuesday late afternoon.
Tuesday late afternoon. I took a nap at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which is like big mistake. You had to stay up the rest of the day. And Ryan was like, "Don't do it." And I was like, "I will have no problem sleeping till tomorrow." Took a nap on the couch downstate from 4 to like 6. And then we did like a 3 hour drive up north, 3.5 hour drive up north. Slept the entire drive, walked in the house, brushed my teeth, went to bed, and slept till 5 in the morning. So I have
That
some
is
rest.
awesome. That
Like,
is good recovery right there.
pretty proud of myself.
That's legit.
And you tell us about your
Not the
situation.
same. I got
Welcome.
home at 12:30 a.m. Monday morning, I guess it was. Unpacked quickly and got in bed around 1:30 a.m. And our house is still under construction, so I was up really early.
Good morning. That's beautiful.
So I'm struggling a little bit. And then last night I finally got to bed at a decent hour, but Colt had to get up at 6:30 to go to school because he's a 6th grade peer counselor. So 6th grade started today. So, even though I finally went to bed at a decent hour, I still only got like 7 hours of sleep. So I just need like just a I need like a yeah, I would need like a 11 or 12-hour just session where I
Right.
just zonk out. But I'm home. I'm happy to be back in Boulder. I was in Minnesota all summer and I every time I come back I'm like, "Oh, that's why I live here. I really like it here. It's really pretty here. The
Yeah.
running is easy, the weather is easy." So, it's nice to be back in Boulder for sure.
What did you watch on the plane? Did you watch movies or did you sleep?
I watched Challengers. Have you
Oh,
seen that?
I watched like a quarter of it. I was looking for the movie, but I didn't know what the image was. I didn't know the name or the image, and then I got it right at the end. And I was like, I need to watch the rest of this.
Okay,
Do
I
I need?
really wish that you had watched it because, well, maybe we'll just pause because when you watch it, I need to discuss the ending with someone. I got home and I'm like, Adam, Colt, did you guys watch Challengers? Because someone needs to tell me what in the hell does the ending mean? And they were like, we didn't watch it. That tennis movie, we didn't watch it.
Yeah.
So that's what I watched. Yeah. And then I slept for like 2 hours and then I just listened to music.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
I
What
have a
did you
hot.
watch?
I have a hot take. There are I was reading Chris's thing. There are two movies that I think are the perfect airplane movies, and they're really just comfort food for me. They're probably not for everyone, but I'm going to make a big declaration because that's what I do. Um, Devil Wears Prada, perfect movie for the
I
airplane.
love that you love that. That is so off brand what I think you're going to say.
I love Meryl Streep. She's the perfect bitch in that movie.
She
Like
is such a
she's
good bitch.
such a snot, so well done. It makes me laugh. So one, two, Argo. Argo is the perfect plane movie. It's suspenseful, but it has a happy ending. But you're like, it
I've
keeps
never
you.
seen that.
Oh my gosh, it's really good, and
Argo,
it's
I'm writing it down.
a true story. Yeah, it's great.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not planning on any more long flights for a little while anyway, but
Next time, I
um
look for Argo.
yeah, everyone watch Challenger so we can discuss it on the next pod.
Chris has weighed in.
I know Chris has weighed in and I'm not going to say what he said because I'm just not going to do it
Yeah,
until
spoiler.
everyone's watched it. Yeah.
Thanks.
Um,
That's,
what else? I was wearing a Bruce Springsteen t-shirt on the way home
uh-huh.
and I
Did you
got
meet?
so many like met people because I was wearing this t-shirt. And then Trey and we were on the same flight from Paris to Detroit. And like
Mm.
we're going through customs and we get like he gets called over to have his luggage x-rayed again. And then because I'm with him, I do too. And then the guy's like talking to us and he's like, nice shirt. And then we didn't end up, he goes, get out of here. You guys are fine.
Going on in the US.
So anyway, I just thought that this is kind of weird about me, but I associate Bruce with the Olympics because 96 was in Atlanta and they
Mhm.
kept playing Born in the USA like throughout the coverage. And so I associate him with the Olympics, even though he has nothing to do with the Olympics, but maybe he will in LA. I don't know. Anyway, that's my story.
Good connection there. That's totally possible. Oh, I have an airport story. We got in and I breezed through everything quickly because I'm like an airport expert. And then I was waiting on the other side for Ryan, who had to go to the bathroom and was like kind of fiddling around doing things. He's a little bit behind me, but in his delay, he can't. He was like, I'm with Mike. Check it out." And I look back and I see him, and he's with Mike Tirico, who is a Brooks guy, by the way. Was really excited to see that.
Did you guys say hi to him?
We did. He was like, "Where are you guys off to?" We live in Charlevoix, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm on my way up there right now too." He's like, "We're going to make the drive up." So I think he gets a vacation now, which is really great. I hope he's sleeping and relaxing near the lake, but probably not.
So we've talked about this. But I love Mike Tirico. Like I've met some cool people at NBC, and he is one of the most genuine, great. Like he read my book even and like gave it to his son. Like just the coolest people. And I have this thing where once he gets some rest, I want to ask him to come on the pod. But it's
Totally.
like, how much rest is he actually going to get? So maybe I just need to ask him.
Yeah, you should just ask him because it
It's
would
like
be
a double
amazing.
connection because you guys live in the same area.
Yeah,
We
even if
all
it was
work.
like a 20-minute hit, and he was just like, "Yeah, I was
Yeah.
so tired, but I I got to call everything and do the opening ceremonies
I
with
mean,
Kid
he's
Sharks."
always on. Like he's always on. And we thought we were tired. I can't even imagine what that guy is like, right? It's
He's incredible
crazy.
too because I mean, he can speak so intelligently about so many sports. Like he can jump into the next thing and um, do play by play on NFL and college football, and then he's going to be there to host the Olympics, and then come back and do golf, and just like the amount of knowledge. And he was on a commercial flight, the People's Choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
That's
man of
pretty
the
cool.
people, the man of the
That's
people.
really cool.
He was probably in a pod, but he was on our flight.
Yeah. Let him
And
have the pod, man.
maybe
Take the
he was on the LA flight, like the big. Did you see the LA jet? Like they had a special Delta LA jet that was flying
No.
the flag. So I doubt it had a layover. He was probably just going home.
Yeah. Well, who was on that Delta LA flight?
I don't know, but there was a ton of people at the airport for it, and they like did a big photo op and the whole thing. We saw it.
Was it athletes or was it like
I think it was like organizers.
media organizers? Interesting.
Yeah.
I remember the first Olympic team I made, I upgraded myself to Beijing to business and
Nice.
like it didn't come through. And so I went back to my seat. I was like between Dathan and Amy in a middle seat. And then all of a sudden they came back and they were like, we can move you up. And I was like, bye guys. But
Oh
anyway,
yeah,
I was
100%.
like, see ya.
Yeah.
But I'm up in business and it's all like USOC people. And they're all like, oh, you're competing. I was like the only athlete up
Yeah.
there. I'm like, this is
So crazy.
weird. Like everybody's crammed in the back. It was
Yeah.
like San Francisco there. It's like when you had to go through San Francisco for team processing. I'm like,
Mhm.
this entire flight is athletes that just went through team processing and they're all in the back. It was just like mind blowing to me. A little glimpse into, now we know more about how this whole machine really works.
I think that's such a great point, and it's going to tie into so much that we talk about. I think the athletes are not. They're not making the money.
No, they are not.
They're not sitting first class. They're not whining and dining in the suites at the track with the Michelin star chef and the alcohol, where the rest of the stadium is dry.
So my
Um,
dogs are not as well behaved as yours. They just
oh,
hovered.
ours are terrible too. So
Um, yeah, so I even saw like Kenny Benarek, who won a silver medal in the 200, was like, man, a silver medal doesn't even get me an upgrade into business. So again, like I know you can survive not flying in business, but there are plenty of people in business.
and the thing is, if you do it, like you understand the importance of it, and you're like, this is my Olympics, and I'm going to put this money, like you're investing in yourself. I mean, that's just another example of an athlete being like, oh, I need to do this for myself. Like, I'm going to make this decision because it's going to help me perform better. I'm going to make, but it's not coming from anywhere else. It's like you make that decision, use your money
Yep.
to fund your experience to make sure it's the best experience possible.
For the London Olympics, I just bought a first class ticket. I actually bought.
Who's grumpy?
They're both barking
Send
at a
me
bird. I got Luna here and Freya on the floor,
Hey
and
guys.
they cannot let this bird go. Like, just let
Yes.
the bird be. Oh, she just yawned. Her breath is so bad. So anyway, I had my son who wasn't even 2 yet, so he could sit with us.
Mhm.
But you're talking about like investing in yourself. That's what we bought just out of our pocket, 3 first class seats. And the funny thing was Colt didn't spend one moment in his seat. Not a single moment. He was, like, curled up on me the whole time, and Adam was just, like, passed out. Um, and Adam did try to get him to go over to him, but he was like, "No, I need to be with mom." So anyway, we always tease Colt. We're like, "We wasted, like, $2,000 on you, bud. You didn't even sit there for a second."
That explains all his coach flights now. He's like, "Oh, sit back here." Well, the last time we did it for you,
Last
you
time we did
did
it, you
it.
didn't sit there at all. Yeah, and then on the flight back, he actually did sit in his seat, but he wanted to talk the whole time. So I was just like talking to him the whole time. But anyway, he was a good traveler.
That's great.
But yeah, I agree. It's like you put up the money because it does make a difference when you can relax and you can stretch out and you're not confined and you can use the restroom when you actually want to use the restroom. All those things matter, right? You can hydrate properly because you're not walking across everybody to get out of the row. And I know it sounds like, oh, you have to be upfront, but it makes a huge difference. And it just seems like at this day and age, we should be, I don't know, it seems like we should be hooking the athletes up, but what do I know? At least on their way over there. Then they're going over there and they're staying in a dorm. They're essentially staying in a dorm. Like I know that the village is nice and the food is good and it's cool and it's exciting, but it's a dorm. It's
Yeah.
not like a luxury hotel.
And that's a thing too, like a lot of athletes make the choice to not stay there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is
Yep.
sort of like I think at times it can be portrayed as like diva mentality, like, oh, you're too good to stay here. Oh, this is like below you. It's like, well, no, actually, I've just put a lot into this and I want to make sure every detail is right. And what I'm used to is having my own space, getting my own food, like being able to sleep, make sure I can sleep. Those things matter.
Yeah, I got my own room in 2012. I was
Yeah.
like, I want to be I stayed right by the start line. There was a park right out the front door. I was like, I want to be with Adam and go to bed when I want to go to bed. Just like you're saying, I want to be able to sleep in. I don't want to have to like ask people like, when are you guys going to go get food? I want it to be on when I want to go get food. And it's not to criticize any other athletes. It's just like you're at the biggest stage of your life. And it's like at that time I could afford to just do it. Like I'm just going to get a hotel and it's going to cost a lot of money, but I'm hoping that it's worth it. And I know that I'll feel better about it knowing that I'm there, you know? And
Yeah.
so I don't think it's diva behavior at all. I mean, the village is fun and it has its own perks, but also the later that the meet goes on, the louder that the village gets because people are eliminated out of stuff, but then they get to stay through closing ceremonies as they should. But you have people that are done and partying and having fun, and you're like, I still have 4 days before I even start, you know? It's a
It
lot.
it breaks down to like those rooms are not made for long-term living. Like by
No.
the end, like, the shower's a little janky,
Yes.
things are near falling apart. This is my experience. I mean, in London and in Rio both, it was like this place was not meant. I don't know if they put the para athletes in there next, like if they go in and touch it up and then get them ready. So yeah, that's a concern. And both of my experiences, like the dining hall is not like you're all of a sudden adding mileage onto your
Yeah,
days.
it's a hike to get there, and the dining hall itself is huge. So
Right.
you're, like, walking around getting all your stuff, and then, you know, and it's again, it's awesome, but it's like cafeteria style, it's not necessarily, like, restful, you can't if you wanna just eat on your own, it's not that easy, I don't know, it's just it's so different, and it's cool and it's fun. And we saw athletes like Clayton Young seem to be just like
Yeah.
sucking in every little bit of that experience. And that's awesome. Like he was like, I'm in the dining hall, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And he was loving it. And that's great. But for some athletes, it's stressful. It's actually stressful.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's all worth experiencing, and
Yeah.
then like you learn from that, and hopefully you get back and you're like, okay, this time maybe a couple days there after opening, or maybe I don't do
Yeah.
opening. You like it's just like the courses and just like the trials, these are all one-offs. So,
Mhm.
you can go to LA, come away with a bunch of lessons, but you just throw them in the trash can because it's not like, well, not you're never running that course again.
Right.
Like you don't need the knowledge again. I think there's some stuff you can learn from and then take it forward, but a lot of it's like, well, that made sense for, you know, uh, Jesus, where were we? Paris.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
for London or Rio or
Right.
Paris.
Yeah.
And then there's bigger picture stuff where you're like, okay, like next time I will adjust this way because that experience at large, I learned this, this, and this.
Right. Well, that was like a huge experience for me is like walking into the stadium in Beijing, like it was 80,000 people. That's more than are in my hometown, you know? And I remember being very, very nervous. I was crying when I was warming up. I was just overwhelmed by the whole thing. And I remember thinking, well, when I get in there, I'll hear either Adam or my mom or Alberto, and that will calm me down. And then I walked in, it was just like complete I mean, more people than were in Paris, right? There was like just under 70,000 per session in Paris. So it's like, I didn't hear them. I didn't hear shit. I just
Right.
heard roaring the whole time. And I was lucky that I had the 5,000 as like another race, even though my stronger race was supposed to be the 10,000. But I got to go back and do that with a totally different mindset of what an expectation of like, this is what it's going to be like. They're going to call me into the call room 50 minutes before the race. And I'm not going to let that throw me off. And you know what I mean? And I'm not
Yeah.
going to get to see Adam and I'm going to see Alberto, but with 50 minutes to go, I'm never going to see him again. And so the 5,000 went so much better because I had the 10,000 under my belt. But it's just everything is so different. And yes, it's exciting and yes, it's awesome. But it's you're very much so out of the element that got you there.
Yeah. It's completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different. I don't know. Do you want to use that to just talk about the elephant in the room, or do you want to go event
Yeah,
by
no,
event?
let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's just
Yeah.
address it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the big story from the marathons, which is kind of where we're starting our recap. And by the way, it was awesome getting to call
Oh
those
yeah.
races.
Wait,
with
real quick, people want to know how that happened. So Um,
you.
I knew Des would be awesome on the mic. I've heard her on the mic before, but also like whenever we talk about anything, your knowledge is so good and so in depth. So I actually asked a couple months ago if she could be on the broadcast. I didn't really get an answer. And then I was held till like 12, between 12 and 2 a.m. almost every day while they were just making sure. And by the way, I never had any edits. But
Yeah.
you still have to wait and make sure you don't. But anyway, one night it was like 1:30 in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was just like, I'm gonna ask again. And I was like, like Des Linden's here. And they were like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And so
The fatigue or on a late
they were like,
night
oh
in the
but it
ass.
worked out awesome. Like you were so good in there. And at first, like it was gonna be like a 10-minute segment, but it was awesome because I do think that it was way better than the men's call having you there. Your knowledge was so good. You pointed out things that I didn't see, or we were bouncing off each other of things that we were noticing. So it was so fun.
It
It
was
was,
really fun. And I think, I mean, thank you for a lot of people don't take the time to like extend themselves at someone else's behalf, or like if it's not going to benefit them directly. And I think yes, it helps with the fatigue of you having to do late night track, morning marathon, late night track, morning, like that all adds up, and so it took a little bit off your plate, but like that was just a very selfless thing for you to be like, hey, I would
are you
like this
kidding?
partner
There's
to come
nothing
in.
selfish about it. First of all, you didn't get paid. Second of all, my plan is for us to call LA 2028.
Everything's an audition. There's always an audition for the next thing. And I mean, if that's the last time we do it, I had a blast. But I also think proof of concept, we did a
Yeah.
pretty
I
decent job.
I feel like and I'm sure our listeners will agree. I think you and I would do a killer job on most major marathons. And so when you're not racing, I would love the opportunity for us to call stuff. So maybe it seemed selfless, but it's really because I want to keep working with you and in a bigger capacity. So you
Yeah,
crushed it and it was really fun. And
it's fun.
yeah,
And you
it was
crushed it
good.
as you did all meat. Your meat was incredible. Bravo.
Well, thank you. It was really fun. And I think I've grown a lot as an announcer. And it's kind of funny because now I'm just like done for the year.
Yeah, that's actually crazy. That's pretty funny. Like, see you for world
I'm like,
champs.
I'll see you guys. Yeah. indoors.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, but anyway, that part of my life is done for the year. Unless anyone's listening and they want Des and I to call a marathon, in which case, hit us up. Let us know. We'd be happy to do it.
Remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that was awesome calling it. And I think one of the things that came out right away from that race was Fiona O'Keefe stepping off the line and looking, pretty uncomfortable. I don't
Hmm.
know, like how exactly was it injured? Was she uncomfortable? I think then you go back and there was a lot of questions before in terms of how healthy she was. So you put, those kind of connect those dots, and she was ultimately going into the games beat up. She didn't know to what capacity, and she had a really hard decision to make of, do I start this race or not? And she obviously decided to give it a go. I think the aftermath of that has been pretty I mean, it's not eye opening because I've gone through the exact same thing, but it's really frustrating because there's just not a lot of information out there for people who are just criticizing and really attacking. And um yeah, I think we want to clear a lot of things up if we can, or at least give you more perspective, so before you critique or attack, you can think about maybe what you would have done in her shoes.
I think you and I had some insider information that, Jess was in town before it was written about. We knew that one of the athletes was dealing with something a little bit questionable, but that there was still a good chance they were going to run. And I just felt like the athletes were let down the whole way through. I felt like and a lot of people disagree with me, that's fine. I felt like there was a Runner's World article that ran that talked about why Just Ton was in town, and I felt like that started the questioning of who is it? I mean, I saw it. I saw it in places, well, who is it and how injured are they? And then I think, you know, I got some responses of like media is responsible to report on stuff. And I do understand that. Although Fiona had not announced her injury, she was still processing it and figuring out how serious it was. I guess for me, I just come at it from the media side, but also as an athlete. And on the eve of the biggest race of your life, I don't really need people asking me and everybody on the team, are you injured? How serious is it? I just think that bothered me a little bit because I felt like it set the tone a little bit for what happened next, which was, as we're talking about, Fiona dropping out and then all this negativity. And it really made me think about you in 2012 and what did you get hammered as hard as it seems like she's getting hammered? And I agree. I think we really need to dive into it. I don't think most people understand. And I just don't understand. I'm having a hard time with the anger towards her and nobody and people not seeming to have empathy. And I'm just going to say it, like, our community is supposedly so supportive and so loving. And I sound like a mom here, but I've been disappointed in the running community. I just have been. It's like no one is I mean, Fiona O'Keefe's a real person. She's like
Yeah.
a real person with feelings and emotions who's seen this stuff, who already is in the lowest spot probably of her life. So
Yeah.
anyway,
It is very much a like, if you don't love me at my DNF, you don't deserve me at my, and it's backwards because she already did the thing that like you were embraced and lifted up and praised. But then if she can't repeat it or do it in the same way, you're going to just beat her while she's down. I mean, that's hard. It's from my experience, I mean, I guess it was very, very similar prior to even getting to the, like, I guess it was a little bit out from the games. I didn't know about this, but a coach reached out and was like, "Look, you just don't say anything. Stay under the radar, go in and pretend like something happened in the first couple whatevers, however far you can run." And then, there's public sympathy, like, "Oh no, she got hurt doing whatever." Like, that was the advice I got, because you don't know what's on the line if you don't start. Like, no one told me. And that was from, and you can kind of look back at the history of folks who, in the moment, you're like, "Oh, that's so heartbreaking for them to have this thing happen." And you're like, "Huh, interesting." And there's a history of it. So that was the advice. And I was like, this seems that seems wrong. Like if I can give the place to somebody else, like I'm going to take the time I need. If I can give the place to somebody else, then that's what I'm going to do. So I gave myself enough time to figure it out and try all these different things and work through what was showing as tendonitis on an MRI. And, I just never felt like I really came around. So I said, I'm going to give up my spot. And they're like, oh, like USATF was great. It was like, go get some treatment. Like, we want to help you get to the line. We're going to do all the things we can. Like, you are in this spot. Like, let's get you, going. And so I go and work with the medical team. In the meantime, they call my coach and say, hey, if she doesn't start the race, she's not an Olympian. She gives back all the gear, which is the only gear you've traveled with because you can't wear anything else. So,
Right,
like,
right.
like all your clothes are back. You have to get out of the village immediately because it's for athletes competing and Olympians. And you're not an Olympian. You're erased from this record book.
You're no longer a part of Team USA at all at any capacity.
Right. So it's like give everything back. And that's after months of like doing media and being presented as an Olympian and, building up this hype for this race. And then it doesn't work out in their favor. And it's like, adios, you do not matter. Let's bring in the next person. And then there's the other side of it, like who was actually ready to go and so on and so forth. But one thing that I've always spoke really highly of was USATF standing by me and being like, let's help you go out and do whatever you can do. And I would love to know what happened between that time, even to 2020, 21, being the alternate and knowing that one of the athletes was injured and being like, hey, like, what's the protocol? Is there a proof of fitness? I know there was a year between the trials and now. And they sent me an email and said, hey, we cannot ask an athlete to give up their spot. It's like, oh, that's not even what I'm trying to do at all. I will not send another email like your spot to do whatever you would like to do with it. And then now where it's like, let's very quietly, what I've understood is behind Fiona's back, bring in an alternate so that we can be ready to replace you instead of helping her figure it out and make that decision herself. Maybe
Yes.
she would have made that. Who knows? But when you do it sneakily, that's not great.
And to be
It's not right
clear,
for Jess and it's not right for Fiona.
right, I was going to say, to be clear, there's another person who went on an emotional roller coaster and who I think was treated poorly in all this a little bit. But the situation is Jess Ton. She's not, I feel like they both, I mean, I think the communication was really poor for both of them. And so it just sucks, right? Because now Jess Ton's like, oh my God, I might be an Olympian. Of course, she's been training. We've seen her race this summer. She just ran the Olympic trials. Is she ready to run a marathon? Is she ready to run that course? I mean, I doubt it, that specific course with all the hills and the downhills, but like, hey, she gets to get out there and she becomes an Olympian. So now her hopes are up, right? She doesn't want anyone to be injured, but she's like, oh my God, like this is a dream come true for everybody. And so now you've like had this situation where you bring someone in with lack of communication to Fiona and Jess is there, but with lack of communication of what's going on. I mean, this is just what I heard from messaging with a couple people involved. I don't want to, yeah. And
Yeah.
and it's just these people, like, this is the highest of stakes. Like, I'm glad to hear that in your situation they were so supportive. But it just feels like, I think that's one thing people don't understand. Like, you don't start, you're not an Olympian. And
Hmm.
and that's, she earned that title. And you can say all you want, well, that's dumb. That's dumb. That they should still be called Olympian. But you're not. You don't get to use that. You don't get to move forward and be like Olympian Fiona O'Keefe anytime she races. You're just a Fiona O'Keefe. And this happened in Tokyo with Yard Naguse. He got third at the U.S. Olympic Trials. He went to Tokyo. He got an injury. When he was warming up, he realized there's no way he could run. It was too late to sub anyone. And at NBC, they were like, remember, he is not a two-time Olympian. As soon as that gun goes off in the first round, he becomes an Olympian. And I don't think people realize that. Like, people want to blame it on money or this or selfishness, this or that. It's so much more complicated than the money, which I'm sure is a factor. But you earn that. And people saying they're young or look at what Des did, this or that. Well, you were like, I'm sorry, not everybody recovers from their injuries and comes back to the highest level again. And also, who knows in 4 years, what if she gets a cold at the Olympic trials? I mean, there's no guarantees that she's going to go back.
Well, here's the other thing too. Like after that Olympic experience, you've put this thing on a pedestal for so long. And it's like the ultimate goal. It's what you strive for. She put in 8 to 12 months very specifically, but a lifetime of work to get there. And then here's the thing is she put in all that work. She made the team. It's a grueling process. She earns the spot. And we can talk about all this, but then she does the 4 month build up to the games, hoping to get an Olympic medal because that's the
Right.
goal, right?
That's the
That's
goal.
everybody's goal. And in that process of dreaming big and trying to achieve, she breaks down. And so you like now it's worth nothing. And I mean, what's she guilty of here? Trying too hard, caring too much? And then you get to the moment where they go like, oh, okay, if you can't do something amazing for us, get the fuck out, you're worth nothing. All of that time and effort she's put in, and this does go to the compensation, the only value you get from that is that title.
Right.
Like USATF's not really there. There's no money for this process. Like it's prize money that you earned. USOC is not. It's no. There's no like, oh well, you did X amount of work in the build up. Let's compensate you this way. It's you become an Olympian and then you leverage that afterwards, right? Like it's not like, oh, there was a big contract bonus for her. It's like, no, there's the title. And then go read a World Marathon Major press release. See how it reads. 12 Olympians, world record. Like that's how she makes her money for that
Yes.
big block of work she's done. So if she can't have the opportunity to have that title, then she's worked for free for about 8 to 12 months. Now she's dealing with an injury she's got to cover. Anything she's invested, her upgraded flights, her physio, like it's a loss. Like she's actually lost money. So she's probably grieving this thing. I mean, it's
Yes.
like the death of a dream.
100%. And you're just so low and you're just trying to hold out hope. Look, I think all runners of every level have been in a situation where things aren't going well and you just keep hoping. I'm going to wake up and it's going to be okay. I'm going to wait. Or you have a goal. You qualified for some race and you're like, I have to start it. Like, I can't, I just have to do it. I have to. Yeah. And I don't understand. I'm really struggling with the anger and it's not un-American or it's selfish. For me, what's been super interesting is the supportive messages from Olympians and from people who have raced at the highest of levels. I personally haven't seen another Olympian or someone who's raced high at a high level at a world major be like, dude, I can't believe you did that.
Right.
Including Jess Ton, by the way. Everyone's been like, we get it. We've been there. It's so awful. You know, and this isn't your high school cross country team or even your college cross country team. This is real life. This is a dream realized. And people will say, "Well, I wouldn't call myself Olympian if I limped a mile." No,
Bullshit.
because guess what? You have no idea what you're fucking talking about because you'll never be in that position.
Right.
I'm sorry. It's just
Well, there's
I've
a
been
few
so
things.
disappointed. Yeah, go ahead.
It's first of all, it's not a team sport. It's
No.
not. Like second, there's this idea that it's the larger Americans places. It's not a government funded program.
Right.
No like she isn't stealing anything from anyone,
Right.
like that's not part of it. If it's about the medal hall, which is made up by the media, there's no like end of the games like America won the Olympics
Right.
and these people contributed. Okay, is it about the USATF distance hall, like the medal hall? Like we won the meet. That's not real. Did Fiona cost Max Siegel a bonus? Maybe, but maybe they should compensate her if she worked really, really hard trying to achieve something big instead of just being like, you know what? Let me play it safe and just make sure I can be pretty average so I can call myself an Olympian, and that's good enough. Like, that's the question, is do you want your athletes to be so afraid of what they could lose that they just meh, here's a meh
Mhm.
performance, but I just need to check the box so I can have my title and go my way. I'd rather her risk it all and then, have to struggle on the day, but give herself a chance for greatness. That's me personally. And I get that everyone's going to have a different take on that.
But we
But,
saw that in other events. We
right.
saw people who were injured, who started, who didn't progress through the rounds because they were injured because, just like you said, everybody came here wanting to get a medal. So everybody pushed the envelope to get there. That's how you get a medal. And sometimes you go over the edge and it sucks. But that's also part of being an elite athlete.
That's the sport. And I think that's what's missing, is like, this is a picture of how the sport works. And if we only want people who are at the very top, then all of a sudden we're like UK athletics being like, you know what, your qualifier isn't good enough. You're fucking dream snatchers.
Yep.
Like, you're the dream police. That's not good enough. We don't want you. Go away. Sorry. Like, if you don't love me at my DNF, you don't deserve me at my medal. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think there's so much on the line, and I know she's in a dark place. Like, we chatted a few times, and I was like, here's my number. I know that one of these hard things is people will give you advice and people will say things, and you'll go like, you have no idea what I'm going through right now.
Hmm.
Like, but I do, and there are people who do, and you have to distinguish the voices that have been there, are willing to help, want to give you constructive criticism, or just hold your hand and say, hey, it's okay. And then the folks who just are saying things to say things because they feel like they have some sort of right to chime in right now, and figure out where those comments are coming from. Is it a place of love, or is it something else? And then listen to the ones that make sense.
One thing I want to say too is I saw a lot of people saying Tamrat Tola was a late add to the Ethiopian squad. It's not done the same way everywhere else. They have, like Ethiopia has like a training camp. It gets narrowed down to a certain amount of people. They continue to train. So he was ready to run a marathon, right? Where we don't do that in the United States. There isn't a 5-person training group, the top 5 at the Olympic trials training specifically for this marathon. And then if someone starts to get dinged up, we cycle someone else in. And also, then even if we did have a program like that, now all of a sudden it's political. And isn't that what we love about our country, is that everyone goes out there and earns the spot? Like, I don't like the people that say Fiona stole the spot from someone. Everybody showed up in Orlando
Right.
and everybody had the same chance. Some people were injured. Some people were carrying injuries. Some people had overtrained for it. I mean, that sucks and it's all part of it. But everybody, the gun went off and everybody had a chance.
Hmm.
And to frame it like she stole it from Jess or stole it from Sarah, stole it from anyone else. And I love Jess and Sarah, by the way. This has nothing
Right.
to do with whoever finished behind her. But to say that she stole it, no, she earned that. And everyone else had the same opportunity to earn it. I it's just I don't know. It's just been
Yeah.
bothering me so much. And people are like, you and Des, like, just
Yeah.
own it. If you've done that before, just own it. I'm like, be transparent. I'm like, when have we not been transparent? We get on this pod and we are opening our lives to everyone. We're
Yeah.
just saying maybe there's factors you guys aren't considering. And I
Yeah.
know that you kind of brush through it, but there are some contractual bonuses for some people. Now, I have no idea what her contract is like. But for a lot of people, it's like you hit an Olympic bonus and then it rolls onto your contract and your contract becomes more valuable. And you can say it's selfish to consider that, but I also think that that's just a reality of trying to be a runner, and now you're injured and now you have more bills to pay because now you're going to have a ton of physio and a ton of coming back, and you don't have races on the calendar where you're going to get an appearance fee. And so I don't think it's selfish to put that also into the puzzle when you're trying to figure out if you should start or not.
Well, I mean, you got to think of the other side too. Like, she's given up so much for USATF, USOC, who hasn't compensated her, right? Like, how much is it? 107 half or quicker? Like,
Yeah.
what would her debut have been worth? That's a lot of money.
Yes.
How well did
Oh,
she run in that debut? So what's her next marathon worth? That's a lot of money. Now she's injured and there's questions around her next marathon. Well, how much did she drop her value moving forward? But like at least she has the Olympian title. I
I
think
do want to explain that really quick. You
yeah,
just said how much would she have gotten for her debut? So just in case people aren't in the lingo, your first marathon, if you're coming off of a crazy a track career or a really good half, something that indicates you might be good, you can get paid a ton for your debut. I mean, I got paid, read my book, got paid a
yeah,
lot of money to debut. And she passed that up by going to the Olympic trials. And yeah, she won first place, so she got the prize money. But if she was in a regular marathon and she ran well, she would have gotten probably a six-figure appearance fee plus the money that she earned by performing well at that race,
it's your contract bonuses.
plus all the contract bonuses. Exactly. And so she's already given up a lot of opportunity to represent the United States. And now you guys are calling her selfish and un American.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I feel like if you're talking about what have we done and be transparent, and yeah, you're right. Like I've been a person who took the spot and selfishly took the opportunity to learn about the Olympics and learn about the moment and make sure that I could come back and do it again next time. I've been an alternate. I've passed on a 5K spot that, I didn't think I was quite ready to run a 5K and I thought I would better served getting back to strength stuff. All of these things are called selfish. And I'm sure for different audiences and different people, it's like, well, I don't like what you chose. And so let me sum it up with the word selfish. But that's fine. I'll own that. Everything about this sport is pretty selfish. It's my training, my nutrition, my physio, my sleep, my team, my schedule, yet on and on and on. And so when you're really dialed in on that and you're trying to be the best you can be, I mean, how do you turn it off? And that's fine. You can call me selfish. You're right. That is very much part of the job. And that's why I was able to get where I got because I took all those moments and learned from all the experiences and gathered all the knowledge and was prepared for big moments. Is
Yeah.
that selfish? Is it wrong?
Yeah.
I don't
I mean, I've never hidden this and it's in my book, but just to follow you in the transparency, in 2013, I got second at USA's in the 10,000, made the world championship team for Daegu, and then got a stress fracture afterwards. And I didn't want to run worlds. I said, I'm not running. And then my sponsor said, well, you're going to get your
know.
salary permanently cut by 30%. And I said, okay, I'll run.
I'm a run.
And
Yeah,
you
I
can
was
call that
also
selfish too. But
I
I'm
mean,
like, I can't afford to lose any more money. I had already lost money. And also, like, I don't feel like I deserve to lose money. I got injured because I was trying to get a medal at the world championships. That's why I got injured.
right.
And so, yeah, I just,
Well, I was the
no,
alternate for that team, and
that was
honestly,
2011. Sorry.
yeah,
Yes, you were the alternate. It was in
and
2011, not 2013.
it's like,
And
do you want to run as an alternate? Of course, but do you have any? Like you missed the opportunity to prove your worth for the competition. It's like you know what? If you want to be grumpy, you had an opportunity to fix that. And I don't think any alternate has ever been like, wow, how selfish. It's like, oh man,
I think you're
next time.
disappointed. You
Yeah,
know, and like I was like, someone else should take this spot. I have a freaking femoral stress fracture, and it was August, and the Olympic trials were in January for the marathon. But as soon as I heard that's fine, but you're going to have a 30% on your contract for the life of your contract, I was like, it's good enough.
yeah.
I'll limp
I'm
around.
I want to hit on one more thing.
Yeah.
If you have more, we can keep going, but I feel like this is going to be Orlando dead horse at a certain point.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of people who've been like, there needs to be a medical staff that makes the decision, a team doctor like who looks at the athlete. Great in theory. That's how the power dynamic Dr. Sketchy McFuck
Mhm.
comes to be. If you put someone's dreams and hopes on the line with the doctor who's going to evaluate them and tell them their future, like the power dynamic there, I I don't love it. I don't think that that's a realistic thing that can happen. I think
No,
if
it's
you
completely unrealistic.
work with like your own doctor and have an individual separate situation where you go like, hey, this could jeopardize the rest of your career, make help you make an informed decision. But the other thing is Fiona had an MRI and it was clear, no doctor would have green lighted her to go out there if there was something that like if she had and whatever, maybe they'll find it later, maybe something's going to come up, but if she has a femoral stress fracture and they say, yeah, it's fine, go run, and it cracks and it like nicks her femoral artery, that doctor is not a doctor anymore. Like there's lawsuit city. So the people who did look at it independently, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you've been in physio where they say it's tendonitis or it's soft tissue, and you go 4 hours in the morning, you do it for a little jog or you aqua jog or whatever the cross training is, and then you go back at night. It's 4 hours, and 3 or 4 days later, maybe you can gut through something. I don't think
Mhm.
that's normal physio routine for folks, but that's when you're pushing to get to the line, like that's pretty common.
Yeah. Yeah. You've made so many good points. So I think anything I say will be a dead horse beating. But I just want to say, like, let's have some empathy here. And you don't have to agree with her decision, but
Sure. Well, yeah.
tried,
I
yeah,
mean,
I don't know.
yeah, I've like clapped back on a lot of people because it's definitely something that I understand what she's going through, and I'm not going to do that anymore because I'm done. I'm exhausted. That's why I have this pod to just vent on stuff at times. But if you go seek out Fiona's channels to be mean, like look in the mirror and evaluate your life.
Right. I
All
think
right,
that's a good place to end it. That's a perfect comment. Okay. All right.
onward.
Onward. So now that we spent 40 minutes talking about that, or however long it was,
Jeff,
should we recap the last events that we saw at the Olympics?
let's do it. Quick highlights. Give me some
Big
highlights.
highlights. I mean, do we want to do the marathons and then go back to the track?
No, let's do the track and then go back
Oh,
to the marathons.
okay. Because we have to end with the women's because there is something we have to do with the women's.
I don't know about this, but
We
I
got to
feel
eat a shit ton of humble pie.
oh, yeah, I was like, I'll figure it out really quickly, but yeah, okay. Alright.
But we'll come back.
Let's
Okay.
start with the 10K. Great. Great lead up.
Yeah. 10K women's was, I mean, in some ways, it was exactly what I thought, right? It was a little bit more cat and mousey than the men's. It was a little more cagey. Like the men's, they were running hard from the beginning. The women's was a lot of like hard for 200 meters, easy for 600. And um, I just was like, this is not the way to beat Beatrice Gibet or Safan Hassan. Like, you're just letting them have it. And basically, that's what happened is it became like just a kick. And if you do that, then Beatrice Gibet and Safan Hassan are going to do well. I think the Italian Batacletti, I can't think of her first name right now. She was fourth in the 5,000. I was surprised to see her get second. People were asking me, "How'd you not talk about her shoe falling apart?" That was just kinesio tape that fell down.
Yeah.
Her shoe didn't fall apart.
Nice.
It was just tape that fell down. But I mean, she ran amazing and kicked so hard and went to challenge Tibet. I was like, dang. So it was Tibet, her, and then Safan Hassan kicking in. And then she said afterwards, I was hoping it was going to be slower because I feel like I'm going to feel this in my legs for the marathon. So that's the foreshadowing of like, I was like, yeah, yeah, girl. You went hard in these track events, and unfortunately, I think it's going to bite you in the butt for the marathon. But for me, there
Did
were no big surprises.
did you have any feelings that she might have been holding back? Like, I mean, or just was that, I guess, in hindsight, the first time you go, she doesn't quite have the leg speed of the track runner she used to be?
I mean, I thought that leading into the meet, and then she walked away with 2 bronze medals on the track against like unbelievable competition. So, I mean, maybe she hasn't lost any leg speed, and it's just that Chibet has arrived, and Kipyegon has arrived, and just who I'm comparing it to is different. I felt like no, she's getting older and she lost her foot speed, but then I went back and she medaled at World Champs last year, which I didn't even remember that. And then she got that bronze in the 5. And then I was thinking, well, that's the hardest one to get a medal in if you're marathon training is the 5,000. So if she got a medal in the 5,000, then she's looking
Still
pretty
there.
good for that 10,000,
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I guess no big surprises on my end. I thought the Americans ran well. They hung in there. I thought Kaladi and Valby did well
hmm
because that's typical international championship racing. And I think you have to just do it a couple times to get used to it. Like I had told NBC Valby might lead, like she might just get sick of it and lead. And she did just for a little bit. But I think those, both her and Kaladi, like probably learned so much from that. And
yeah.
then Schweitzer, like I could just see her riding it because she's been there before, right? This is her third or fourth global championship. And she was just sort of like, yep, this is what happens. And I just got to grind it out and not get upset and not get flustered. So I thought they ran well. I thought they ran solid.
I agree. I thought that, like you said, a really good experience for Kaladi and Valby. I think you could see at times Valby being just like it's a physical race, you know?
Yes, she's
It's
not used to that.
different.
And you could see the
Yeah.
frustration and you could see some sort of little bit awkward arm swings at people like, "You're touching me." And I was like,
No.
"Yeah, you're not used to that because you're used to winning by a minute, but that's actually what happens, right?" So that's going to help her so much. Like learn, okay, there's going to be people touching me the whole time and I just
It
have to
looked
be
like
able to
in
not let it
race
get to me.
learning too, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
every case, she was a little bit more comfortable. Like I
Mhm.
get what I have to deal with now.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's huge
I did
experience
want
for
to
her.
say that was the one mistake I made at the Olympics was when I saw her get off the line, my producer's in my ear, we're doing all these intros where I'm not actually not looking at her. I don't even know where she's lined up because we're interviewing people we think have a shot at a medal. And then when the race went off, I saw her cut from the cones to the inside. And I immediately hit talk back to my producer and I said, I think Valby might have just cut in. And so he went and showed it. And this is all live. So I can't watch it on another screen and then come back because we're calling the race live. So he brought it back up for me. And I'm like, that makes me nervous. And then I asked him one more time. I said, can you show it from the very beginning? So we showed it a second time and on that time, we went from the start line. And it was clear that she got confused because there was a woman on her right who was also on the right start line, but who followed the cones all the way around and ended up running
Yeah.
further. And Valby was kind of following her and then was like, what am I doing? I can cut in and then cut in. But I just want to say that I found out later that everyone made that mistake in the media. On
Yeah.
World Feed, they wondered if she got cut off, and on the Olympic Broadcasting Network, they thought she cut in. So, anyway, it caused a little drama on my social. And I'm sorry for the heart attacks that I caused for people saying I think she might be DQ'd, but I am human and I made a mistake. And I was glad that it was a mistake because I was glad that Valby didn't get DQ'd. She ended up running a great race and learned so much. So I'm glad I was wrong.
Well, I mean, kudos to you for owning that, but obviously you are human. I think it's been interesting to see the the need to apologize on social from a number of people on the NBC team is just kind of makes me laugh. Like you guys were pretty close to perfect, but anytime someone had, something little, it's like I have to go back and apologize.
Yeah.
But that's mistakes happen.
Yeah,
Life is
mistakes
hard.
happen. But I was glad I was wrong. But
Yeah,
sorry for everyone that I freaked out because I know I freaked a lot of people out.
love it.
Okay, are we good on the women's 10? Anything
I feel good
else?
about it. Let's press on.
Okay, we want to go men's 5.
Yeah, let's do that.
So the men's 5, I told my producer like I feel like Grant Fisher had an outside chance to get a medal in the 5, but now I really feel like he has a chance because he's riding the confidence boost of that 10,000, which is his premier event. And a few of the heavy hitters didn't come. Like Cheptegei was the reigning Olympic champion and chose not to run it. He said he was tired after the 10,000. Jacob Kiplimo, who's always a factor, also chose not to run it. Mo Ahmed, who was silver medalist last time, fell in
Mhm.
the first round. Not didn't get tripped by anyone, just kind of tripped himself, so he was out. And then Luis Grijalva, who's been fourth at the last 2 world champs, just looked flat and didn't get through. And so I
Yeah,
just yeah.
there was some comment. Where was the bump with the cameraman? Did you ever see that? I need to go
No.
back and look at replays because I've heard. I heard that a few times, and then it was like to me, it looked like Grijalva looked flat, and then it was like no, but he's been bumped. Like someone got bumped by a cameraman allegedly, but he didn't make the final. Anyhow, sorry, I
Yeah,
just
okay, well, that's a bummer if that happened, but he wasn't in there, right? So, I just said, "I know the 5,000 is a different race, but I feel really good that he could end up being a factor." And as the race progressed, he was putting himself in positions just like he did in the 10,000. He never would let himself get further back than 5th. When he found himself, like, kinda boxed in and pushed back, he'd move out and around and move back up. But then with 350 to go, it was like they knew Ingebrigtsen was there, and it was like people were panicking, trying to burn him off and go with him. And Grant was out the back, like
mhm,
out the back. And so then I don't call from 200 on unless Lee brings me in. People always ask about that. That's why he gets paid like the big bucks. He's play by play. His voice is the one that's supposed to live on in replays and or like in I do
right,
replay, but his voice is the one that lives on, not mine. So I'm off the call, and now I'm watching all these people who tried to go with Ingebrigtsen start to fade, and Grant is just coming.
right.
And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. And so, it was awesome. Like he came kicking down there late and took advantage of a very smart race plan, which was thinking that they're going to go with him and they won't be able to do it. And then I'll be able to get all those people. So it was
Yeah,
awesome.
it did. It looked like his legs were just shot. Like, okay, that's the 10K catching up, but it was obviously just the crazy change in pace. And then he
Hmm.
found his gear just a little bit later. I thought he had silver. I was just like, there's that is so close. But another medal and what he's doing for men's American distance running is crazy. I mean, I think we talked about that momentum throughout the meet. And just a bit behind him, Graham Blanks. I mean, collegiate,
Hmm.
first Olympics, finished ninth in the final. That's super exciting too.
Yeah. I mean, I was happy that for Grant, like he did something really special. First of all, he broke history because no Americans won a medal in both at the same Olympics, but he started the momentum and then he got to sort of end it on the
Mhm.
track for distance people, right? Like he got the first and the last distance medal, which was pretty cool on the track. It was interesting listening to his coach afterward, and he said, "Oh, we had that planned out to a T. Like to the line, he knows exactly what he's going to do." And I was just thinking, like, you knew how many people were going to go to with Ingebrigtsen, and like, but he said like they knew it. They have like they are so dialed in, and they knew it would be a late kick. So I don't know, that coach is like a little bit of a fortune teller because I wouldn't have predicted. I would have predicted that Ingebrigtsen went with 1200 and just like walked
Yeah,
away from everybody is what I kind
yeah.
of thought he was going to do. Like people would be like, "This is too hot for 3 laps to go," and he went a lot later than I thought. But what do I know?
Yeah, not as much as Grant's coach,
Yeah,
obviously.
apparently, yeah.
I thought that was funny too because I feel like there was an interview with Grant afterwards, and he was like, "No, with about 200, I thought my legs were shot, and like I could feel fatigue." And
Really? He
guys
said that?
by me, yeah, he was like,
Oh,
"I
that's
thought I
funny.
was like out of it," and then I got on 150, 100 to go, and it's like, "Oh, okay, they're coming back," and I
Yeah,
see
and then
people,
you get like a second win when you see that happening.
right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
maybe they didn't
awesome.
coordinate.
They didn't
There's
coordinate their story perfectly. Well, obviously they're a great team, and the coach has done great with Grant. Obviously, Grant is totally believing in what he's doing, and yeah, just really, really cool. Like I just think he elevated U.S. distance running so much, and I'm not friends with Grant. I just don't know him, but really proud of what he's done, and really appreciative of what he's done for the future of U.S. distance running. It was so cool.
yeah, that was fun to watch for sure.
Okay, women's 1500.
I didn't see this race. I took a phone call. I was like, can you call back?
Yeah. Okay. So it went out in 59. Sagai took it
Yeah,
out. And I felt like Sagai had no intention of running that fast, but Sagai
she
was
just wanted to be
she
disruptive.
I mean, she got criticism for doing all 3 events. The Ethiopian Federation didn't want her to run. They wanted her to pick 2. And
Mhm.
she was like, "No, I'm running all 3." And I think we saw by the 10,000 she was already tired, which was the night before, which is completely understandable because she ran the 2 rounds of the 5, then 2 rounds of the 15, then the 10, and then the very next day was the final of the 15. So she was tired, she was fatigued, and I think she just took it out to try to make a statement or to I don't really know. maybe tried
Yeah.
to take the sting out of Kipyegon, but I think she went out in 59, and I think there were some victims that attached themselves to her, and then 400 meters later were like, holy crap, I'm dead.
Yeah. Actually watched the first 800 actually. And it was crazy how far back Laura Muir was.
Yes.
Like, okay, she's pretty good. She's coming in fit, and she doesn't even look like she's in the same race. That's how
Right.
fast it was. I mean, she ended up running 3:53, so she
Right.
wasn't running slow, but
No.
it looked crazy.
It was crazy. And then I thought that when Kip Yegon went, that there would be that people would be challenging her further. But I think what she does is so good is that she makes that last 400 a full 400. She doesn't make it a wind up with a 150. She makes it as soon as that bell for the final lap goes, it's the kick has started. And so she was able to break everyone essentially. And then it became a race for silver. But it was a lot closer than we're used to seeing it because she was 351. And as you said, Laura Muir was fifth in 353. So it was a lot closer than visually we're used to seeing it. But I was like, that's why she's the GOAT.
Yeah,
Three
and like
Olympic golds
it's
now.
already it's already been there, but I mean, what else can she do to add to that? There's not
She
even a
can't.
question
She
about
has
goat.
3 Olympic golds. No one's ever done that. No one's ever won more than 2, and only a couple people have done that, and they're both men, I believe, and she just can pull it out. And I was nervous for her because she even admitted she was feeling fatigue from the 5,000 in the earlier rounds of the 15. And it was another situation like I thought about Hassan. I was like, man, maybe she is going to cost herself this history of winning 3 golds by trying to do the double. But when she went with 400 to go, I was like, I can't believe I ever doubted her. What's wrong with me? Don't
I
doubt
know.
faith.
Well, it's like you think about all the depth and how many, there's so many great runners right now. It's just bizarre that someone can be at the top of multiple things. I
Yeah.
mean, and I guess it's not double gold, but still, like it
Yeah.
almost. I think we talked about this with Hassan a lot. It's like, well, you have to pick. You This is the
Hmm.
best in the world. You can't do all of it, but some people can.
And then the rest of the race, you could see Laura Muir coming with like 200 to go. She was in full flight. And I cannot believe that she kicked that hard around 353 and still wound up in fifth.
Yeah. Yeah, I came back and looked at the results and I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?
What?
What happened?"
Yeah.
I
So,
mean,
George, it was just bonkers.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was
Tell
just
me.
going to say, George Bell comes kicking off the final bend, catches was Will Teje fourth, catches her. I think it was Will Teje. You can check for me. Jessica Hull is just flying and now holding off George Bell, and they run 352 for silver and bronze. And Georgia Bell was a
Yeah, where's that come
412. Was it Will Teje in fourth?
from? One sec, sorry,
Okay.
I'm losing.
So Georgia Bell, if you guys don't know who she is, don't feel dumb. She was a really good runner as a teenager. She went to school in the US. She kind of fell out of love with running, kind of started getting back into it a little bit last year, ran 412, which was like a personal best last year, and now
Wow,
has run 352. I
that's
don't know what to think about all this. It's the improvement of like your dreams. And it mirrored it's crazier than Jess Hall's progression this year.
mhm,
But those two women like planned it when it was right. And Jess Hall walked away with a silver Olympic medal, and Georgia Bell broke the UK record,
right.
beat Laura Muir's record that she just set in Paris a month and a half ago, running 352 to get third place.
Well, Teje
Bonkers.
was fourth and
Okay.
Mir PB'd in 3:53. So that'll be a fun rivalry if they keep kind of matching up and racing through the season. But even going forward, Bell versus Mir.
Well, it's crazy because when Jess Hall ran 350, Laura Muir ran 353, which was a personal best for her, 2 second, I think, personal best or second and a half. And Georgia Bell ran 350. I want to say she ran 356. And I was like, damn. But
Wow.
but I was like, but Laura Muir still reigns supreme in the UK. I mean, Laura Muir's been around for a long time. She's never finished worse than seventh in a global championship since 2019.
31. Do you think she'll?
And Georgia Bell's only 30, so yeah, you're right. We could see them for a while. I don't know. I would initially my thought was like, yeah, Laura Muir's going to move up to the 5 and start using that lethal speed she has from the 15, but she PR'd this year.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's not like she's slowing down. She's only getting better. So if I was her, I wouldn't move up yet because I'd be like, I
Yeah.
just freaking knocked 2 seconds off my time this year.
Yeah. That's insane
Yeah,
for
but like,
someone
how
who's
fast can Georgia Bell go?
been, yeah. She's been around so long and running well so long, and then she's still like just chipping away at it.
Mm-hmm.
How about the Americans? Any thoughts? They put themselves
Um, they put. I mean, St. Pierre put herself in it. She went with the guy. I wish she hadn't. I wish she had stayed back a little bit because I think it cost her. But I think I don't judge it because you're just reacting in the moment, right? And you're like, she was there for a medal. That's what she was there for. So she's like, I'm putting myself in the race and I'm gonna get like whoever's leading, I'm gonna be on them and I'm gonna be on the rail and I'm gonna be ready. And that's exactly what she did. I just think it just was a little too hot. It was 59 instead of 61. And that makes all the difference in the final 400 meters.
That was reminiscent of her trials race where she was just like, I don't care. I'm gonna go for broke, try to
Yeah.
break this thing open and, you know, make sure I land on a podium. But
Yeah.
that's hard to hang on.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched any replays. I didn't see Hiltz that much. I think after the first lap, I remember talking about Hiltz and saying like, "Oh, if they don't break them, that could be a problem later." But then I don't really remember seeing Nikki again after that because I was just focused on what was happening in the front. I think
Right.
it's wild. I think they both ran about 3:57 and were they 8th and ninth or ninth and 10th, something like that? Maybe 8th and ninth. But like what a
Seventh and
difference.
eighth.
7th and
Hiltz was
8th.
seventh
Oh,
and
yeah,
St.
Nikki was 7th, Hiltz was 7th, and St. Pierre was 8th, and moving up, I mean, St. Pierre was 10th in Tokyo, but if you would have told me they're gonna run 3:57 and be out the back, I would have been like, "I don't think so. Nah."
Impossible. Well,
Then
yeah, I
I would
mean,
yeah. I think they're both capable of running faster. I just think it was a wild pacing. It was kind of like all over the place, and it's tough to
right.
run hard in those conditions. And I think St. Pierre and Hiltz, because I feel like Hiltz was behind St. Pierre for a while, they just put themselves in it. Like whatever happens, happens. But it was just a little too hot, and it caught them. It caught him in
Yeah.
those later stages.
Yeah, I mean, it was reminiscent of the trials, but also to another level, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You said, "Okay, we thought we were going out hard last time, like, it's time to level up." So that's a lot more to come back from and manage.
And then I'm thinking, like, I mean, could Kipyegon win a fourth? I mean, she's not slowing down. I mean, I know you don't like to look ahead that much, but it's just like when this woman is not.
Well,
I
look,
mean,
we just talked about Laura Muir and Georgia Bell and being like they have, room in front of them. They've been PBing and they're 30, 31. Kippigan's 30.
right?
So
They're
why not,
all
right?
early 30 or right at 30, and so it's like they haven't hit their prime, right? Like they say that women's prime is mid 30s, right? Early to mid 30s. So I'm just
I
like, could
mean,
we be watching the same race in LA? That would be wild.
I don't think it's like can Kipyegon. I think Kipyegon can keep getting better. I just think it's the youth and how quick are they going to just
Yeah.
explode because the bar. That's where the bar is, and if you want
Right.
to,
They're coming up knowing the world record is 3:49 and they've watched Faith do it numerous times, right? So it's different than it was even 4 years ago when we thought you couldn't run 350 without being involved in something bad.
right?
Yeah. And so now it's just the whole thing's different. Now you have Jess Hull running 350 and you have Georgia Bell running 352 and Laura Muir running 353. And so the
If you're
younger crowd just comes up with a different expectation.
if you're dreaming of a podium, you're looking at those numbers, being okay. This is where we have to train, and this
Yeah.
is what we need to be. So it's just different.
Yep.
It's a different world.
Different world. Okay. Men's 800.
Um, I don't know. I can't believe that Bryce Hoppel was off the podium with an American record. That's it. That's all I have.
I he said he thought he was capable of running 141. And we were talking in the trailer before the meet. And Otto was saying, like, he might not win with that time, but we are still thinking he runs 141. He's on the podium. He might not win, but he's on the podium. And to see him run so well and break the American record that we've all talked about forever, Donovan Brazier, such a talent that set it while winning the world championship, to see him run under that time and finish fourth. I mean, honestly, I felt kind of sad. And I felt,
It was
you know,
heartbreaking.
it was heartbreaking. And there's background noise there. One of the athletes that finished on the podium had a raid at the Olympic Village of their stuff and their room and their coach. And so it just leaves a sour taste in my mouth of, did we just watch Bryce Hoppel miss out on his opportunity, or
Right.
miss out on his moment is the better way of putting it.
Yeah, that's such a tough one. I mean, literally during the Olympic Games, your room's being raided. That's
Unusual.
what is the backstory there, and how you must be quite confident, because if you're going to the village and I don't know what, I mean, who's bringing this? Chris was like, who's bringing their drugs with them to the village, right? But I
Right.
guess if it's that, yeah, I don't
I
know
mean,
how.
that has been reported. This isn't just a rumor that we heard. It has been reported that Sajati's room was raided at the Olympic Village. And so I nothing was obviously found, or he wouldn't have been in that final, but it's hard for me. They don't just go raid someone's room off of like a rumor or a gossipy tip, because now you're getting in the way of someone's major preparation and all this stuff. So it just, for me, it makes me feel kind of sick to my stomach. Like, maybe we're going to be seeing an upgrade ceremony for Bryce at some point, but he was there and he could have, like, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong.
What was the timing of the raid relative to the race? I didn't
Um,
about
I
later.
think at first I heard it was that day, but then I heard it was 2 days before.
Okay. In my mind, it was like while he was at the track.
Yeah,
Like,
going through it.
maybe they'll
Yeah.
shut this down tonight. Maybe Bryce will
Yeah,
have a medal ceremony.
I know. No.
But that's
So,
pretty wild. That's just a crazy.
I mean, as of right now, it is what it is. The guy's being drug tested, and obviously they didn't find anything. And so, I mean, if he's innocent, that totally blows. But I just felt like, when we've talked about this, NBC has been so hard on Bryce Hop on the men's 800-meter runners from the United States. And last year in Budapest, Bryce Hoppel was like, I take it upon myself. And he could not have put more of himself in. He wins the world indoor title. He moves to altitude for the first time. He runs a lot of races. He kind of becomes a spokesman for Mid D, like really showing up when it matters, doing the interviews, saying I'm gonna run 141, is true to his word, and ends up fourth. It just, for me, it was hard to see. Yeah,
I
it was
agree. I
hard.
mean, you could just see how crushed he was too.
Yeah.
It was a moment where time didn't matter. He did not care about that record one bit. He was like, so close,
Yes. I'm
so
sure he would have
close.
rather given up the time and gotten that bronze. So, anyway, if Hopple listens, you're a stud. And I've been super
Yeah,
impressed by your year and super impressed by your run at the Olympics. There's literally nothing more you could have done. You did everything right. And unfortunately, it didn't get you a medal, but there's nothing more you could have done.
that's. I mean, and that's the thing is, if you can walk away with that, it doesn't make it feel better, but you can be proud of what you did, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I can wear my head up high, whatever
Yeah.
this
And he
is.
should. Yeah. Okay. Well, now we move to the marathons.
Quick hits in the marathons.
Yeah. I mean, the men's was wild because we got a they were before the women, so we were thinking this course was going to be so slow, and then it wasn't. They broke the American or Olympic record, which of course these courses are all so different, but they still have an Olympic record in the marathon. And Temret Tola of Ethiopia broke it and won decisively. I mean, he had quite a big lead. He took the lead coming up like I want to say the last big hill, and just ran away from everybody and kept pressing. And it was an impressive race. And yes, he was a call up, a few weeks out, but I think that he was training and there was maybe some inkling that he might get called up, because I'd heard some rumors that maybe
Mhm.
Cisse Lema wasn't going to end up running. So I don't think he was totally caught off guard by that, but he ran awesome. And
We
I
talked a
guess,
little
oh, go
bit
ahead.
about this on the broadcast with the call ups. Like, do you think there's any value in almost being undertrained? Like, I think there's this whole medal mentality, and I have to do everything, and I have to do more, and it has to be extra. And if you are an alternate, you're like, well, I just you know, like I'm ready, but I'm not
Yeah.
dialed in that same way.
I think
Is
there's
that a
something to that. I
lesson
do
for you?
think I would like to know exactly how Team Ethiopia did it because I know for the last two world championships, they had four athletes training together on a day in and day out basis. And then they selected the three healthiest to go. If that was the situation again, then he was training hard, trying to prove that he
Gonna be
belonged to
different
be
for sure.
there. And he handled that course like nothing. It was super interesting. I had a lot of people reaching out to me later and they were saying, well, super shoes keep you on your toes. So the uphills don't have the same impact anymore. The downhills is where it's harder. Look, I don't really know, but you still had to run up and down all that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a
I think like saying that, I mean, we know that super shoes, I mean, trust me, of all people, I know it's impacted the game, but you still had to go up and you still had to come down, and there still had to be a hardening of the legs to be ready to do that.
yeah. I mean, it's impressive no matter what. I I thought I had COVID that day, so I tuned in about halfway. Um, I was struggling, Kara.
I didn't know you thought you had COVID. That sucks.
You don't have it, do you?
No.
I rested a lot. I was just getting sick. But and then I felt like I was getting sick, and then my bus buddy from all of the track meets had texted the day before and was like, "I have COVID, guys. I'm laying back." I'm like, "Oh shit,"
Oh,
um,
shit, yeah.
but I was fine. And I think it was a lot of the smoke that was really doing
Mhm.
a number on me. Anyhow, I was fine, but I slept in that day and caught like after 10K, and so missed the early moves. But I do think that everything we were talking about had to do with the course and how hard it was going to be. Um, but marathoning in general is just at a different level,
It's not the same game, right?
right?
It's just not the same game, and the sooner that we just, like, accept that and don't go, "Oh my god, can you believe how fast that was?" I mean, it's like, it's not the same game. It was interesting seeing Connor Mance and Clayton Young race because we know they train together, they do the same workouts, they have the same coach, they have totally different racing styles. Connor Mance is like, I am in second place or third place or winning the whole time. I'm going to be at the front. I'm whatever you guys do, I'm going to match it. Where Clayton Young's a little bit more like, I'm going to sit back here. I don't know if I need to be up there right now. And then they ended up being, I don't know how far apart they were, but they ended up being eighth and ninth. And at one point, they were next to each other again after Clayton kind of clawed his way back and they had a little high five, which was one of my favorite moments. It was just like, these guys could not be cuter. I mean, come on. It was like so adorable. They did that in the Olympic trials too, and they're like, "Let's go, team!" And I'm like, if you
Like a
don't like
power.
them, what's wrong with you?" Yeah. um, so I thought that was pretty cool. And then I felt like they really, especially Clayton, was just like really soaking it in, especially like the run into the finish line. And for me, that was cool to see, like someone really being in the moment and realizing like I'm finishing my Olympic race. I did this, everything I've worked for. Like I'm feeling this right now. I liked seeing that.
That was really special, and it kind of speaks to the opportunity of it. Yes, he's running great, and he's got a big future in front of him, a big bright future, and we're all excited for that. But there's no guarantees that you get back there.
Yes.
There's
Yep.
no
And
guarantee.
he's had injuries before, right? So he knows that nothing is forever and that I don't talk about nothing is forever. What are your thoughts on Kipchoge?
Um, I mean, I wasn't totally surprised with that result. I think that we've had questions about like, do you put him on the team? If not, like, who do you replace him with? Is legacy matter? I thought it was about what I expected, just because the course was crazy hard, and then it's been pretty quiet from their camp for a while.
Mhm.
And usually, if things are going well, we're gonna see a lot. But I think it was funny that he said the hills didn't hurt him at all. Like I really feel like he's holding on to this. Like I can conquer the hills.
We're like,
So
Hewlett, it's okay to say the hills were hard. It's
yeah,
okay.
maybe I'll come back to New York and conquer the hills.
Yeah, maybe.
6
Yeah,
months.
we had built up this, because everyone wanted to see Kipchoge versus Bekele with their 39 and then Bekele I think is 41, and they've had this long storied history, but neither of them were a factor, and that doesn't mean anything bad. Their careers still stand, and their
Yeah,
careers will stand the test of time.
pretty great
But
careers.
yeah, whatever we were hoping to see in the showdown, it just didn't materialize, and that's okay, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he got out there, he got to be a participant in the Olympics, and,
Mhm.
he had to step off the course, and that's okay. He gave out, like, all his gear,
Yeah.
but it was a cool moment, and look, there's there's a lot of learnings from having setbacks and not having your day too, like, setting up for the comeback and all of these things. I just you can't just love people when they're crushing it and then not want the full story, like, I think it's part of why the sport is hard to follow because you see one day, but you don't understand the process that goes into it. So,
Right.
like having the longevity of his career, we got to see a lot of really great days, but like you see the ups and downs throughout. I mean, less downs for him, but we're finally seeing like him look like a human, and that's
Right. And that's
refreshing.
okay. Like
Yeah.
nobody can everybody's bodies age. And this is like a soapbox thing that I go off on all the time. But I hate that we act like there's shame in that a lot of the time. So it's cool to see him out there still like making an impact even though he's not dominating, because I I get really tired of like age is just a number. No, like it's a thing. Like at some point you can't win all the time no matter who you are, and that's okay.
Right.
There is life beyond, and there's life in those moments. Maybe you don't think he touched people by walking, like people were walking with him. He's handing out a singlet, he's handing out all those moments are really impactful and matter too. So, not that I want to see anyone age, but it's inevitable for everybody.
Yeah,
Turns out it happens.
it does. Can't relate. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's the same thing. It's like part of the overall picture, and it's sport in general, and it's not always about the wins. Sometimes it's about the process, and sometimes it's about the losses, and some like there's beautiful stories in all of it if you want to look for them.
Yeah. Well,
All right, women's, do we go
okay.
for
Yeah,
the
we
last?
just got to let's just start with eating our humble pie.
All right, fine.
You guys called us out on it in jest. I appreciate it, not being mean. But we kept saying if Hassan is a factor on the track, she won't be in the marathon. That was my thought. I'm not going to speak for you, but I just thought this marathon course is so specific that if she is running fast on the track, then she hasn't done the strength it's going to take for the marathon. And boy, was I wrong.
We were wrong. 100% thought the same thing. I mean, if this were Chicago, if this were Berlin, little room for this to work out. But with this, the course that was out there and how tough it was supposed to be and how tough it was, it just seemed like you had to commit to marathon training,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I would love to see her training for the last 3 months because I'm fascinated. It's like it breaks all of the rules of what we know to be and what we know about preparation and specificity and all of that stuff. So I would love to see her training logs for the last 3 months because I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know how she did it. I just don't. I can't be like, well, maybe she was doing hills one day and then she was at the track. It just doesn't. I don't know. So she's doing something that's blowing my mind, and I wish I could see the training behind it.
Oh, absolutely agree. I think one thing that I felt as I was watching it was that the marathon is a track race. Like it can be run like the track now.
Hmm.
And that's different than ever before, where you go like, oh, like it's not the fastest leg speed, it's the fastest after 20 hard miles or 25 hard miles, right? I don't think that's the case anymore. I think that you have to run it like the track. And the way she raced that was just exactly how she ran a 5K or 10K. Even the move late, where she
Yep.
was like, I'm going to take this inside line. You're not bumping me. This is the clear spot. But everything she did was exactly how she raced the 5 and the 10.
Yeah, she hangs in the back, survives it, survives it, survives it, and then kicks. And when they hadn't dropped her, It's like, you guys are screwed because she's not panicking right now. She doesn't
Right.
ever feel like she needs to lead. And so you guys haven't done enough. She's of all of you, she's the most like, okay, okay, okay. And I think I said it on the broadcast, but she's the kind of athlete that she wouldn't have been even nervous to wait and see the finish line and then kick.
Yeah. I mean, that
Because
even better, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
look, this is less work.
Yep.
Just a little less burst of speed here.
It was crazy. I mean, that top 5 was crazy. I mean, those women were one thing that I loved about it was it lived up to the hype. All of the
Mhm.
favorites made it through. Or on the men's side, there weren't any super clear favorites, and everyone wanted to see this battle between Kipchoge and Bekele, and it didn't happen. On the women's side, everyone that we thought was going to be a factor was a factor and was late.
Yeah, it broke to the people. I mean, I say this sometimes and it comes off poorly, but it's the pretenders for a really long time and then they get rid of them and it's just the contenders. And all the contenders were there. No one, had any trouble. And
I
then
mean,
they
Jep
started.
Churcher fell apart a little bit earlier than I thought she would, but Sean Coulee, I think is her name. She's the world champion from last year. Um,
Yeah, that's Amani Bariso, which they used a different last name that really bothered me throughout the broadcast. So if you're used to hearing her as Amani Bariso, that's sorry, little side
yeah,
note.
same person.
Jen Kool-Aid, yeah.
Yeah. And then we had Loketti, who we thought should have been named to the team originally and wasn't, but then what hung in there. We know she's a good hard course runner. She ended up 4th. 3rd was Helen Obiri, who I thought was going to win. I'll admit it. And
Mm-hmm.
then 2nd place was Asafu, Asafa. She impressed me because I was like, this girl only knows how to time trial. Like, yeah, she's run 2:11, but she's run 2:11 on one of the fastest courses that's ever been assembled.
Yeah.
And she's going to be seeing Jesus out there. No, no, she didn't. She was fine.
Well, and it was crazy too because she was at the front for so long, and it's like if you're going to be at the front, you need to do something. If you're going to be at the front, you need to do something. Like you need to start breaking Obiri and Hassan. And I'm saying this, but it's also she's a two flat 800-meter runner and a
Yeah.
250 something marathoner. So she clearly has just as much kick as anybody else, but it still felt like your kick is not that. I haven't seen that track thing from
We
you in a
haven't seen
really
it.
long time, right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is
I was like, did not think she'd be able to kick. I thought this girl's a time trialer. Yeah,
grind them
yeah,
down.
she's just gonna grind it out of everybody. And then when she didn't do that, I was like, oh, she's in trouble.
Right.
Just kidding. They dropped Helen Obiri, right?
Yes.
Who is yeah.
No,
Then
this
we
was interesting. Helen Obiri said she fell twice during
yeah.
the race, which we sort of noted but didn't see the fall specifically.
No, we knew something happened in the beginning, remember? Because all of a sudden,
Weirdly
oh,
off the
just
back.
quick note, everybody. We don't have cameras. We can't control the slow motion. This isn't
We
tracked.
think it's weird too.
We also are like, why aren't they showing the race? But we have no control. You World Feed owns that. No one else gets to put a camera out there, and we tap into their footage and call it. So yeah, there were too many aerial shots.
No more
There were
feet. No
too
more
many
feet
feet.
shots.
There was not enough showing the front. Things were happening at the front. They were showing people that were falling back. We get it, but we had no control. We were doing the best we could. But we did see her like catching up at the beginning. I thought she had stumbled. I didn't know that she had fallen. And then she fell again at a water station or something like that.
It was the water station where we kind of went back to it and was like, oh, it looks like she fell off, but she didn't get her water bottle. So maybe that's what's helping her catch back up.
Oh, God.
She had fallen, apparently. We did not
And
see
there's no
that.
way that we could know that. Like we couldn't know it because we weren't seeing it.
Yeah.
Um, well, also her coach said afterwards that she got injured after Boston and that she had to cross train for a long time, which I thought was interesting because I don't know, it's just like a piece of information that you hold close to the vest, right? And
Yeah.
nobody knew. I mean, she looked pretty darn fit.
Yeah, she's great. I mean, she's
Yeah.
just that podium is so good. I'm
Yes, and
s-
we were
like
talking about that. Like, how do you even break into that podium? I don't really know what anyone can do. Like Dakota Lindworm ran so great. She was 12th. Emily Sisson had a little bit more of a rough day, but she powered through. But did they go back and watch that? How do you break into that top 3? I'm not sure that anyone can.
I think this, I'm not trying to go back to this, but I think that's the thing is if you are really all in on podium, if you're really going all in for top three, the risk is super high.
Yes.
And if you want
Look at who you're
athletes,
competing against.
right, if you want athletes that are going like, how do I compete for a medal? You're asking a lot for them and you better cover them on the other side if it doesn't work out. Because
Totally.
that's the only way you can have a shot at that is to put your body on the line and know that you're probably going to break down.
Yes. The
You know,
odds are.
odds are they're stacked against you. But who knows? Maybe
Right. Maybe you
a
get
lot of
lucky.
people get excited and want to try, and I don't fault them for that. But if you're trying to play your cards, you go, you know what? Maybe top 10, maybe top
Mhm.
10,
Yeah.
and that's hard. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean that's us in London, right? Like, how
Yep.
do you break into the podium? And sometimes you break through, sometimes you break down, but it's always it's a gamble, and you know, I don't know. I also think that I like this podium. I think that in the past, sometimes you go, oh well, that's not even the same playing field. Like I'm trying to chase something that's not obtainable for people who do it this way. So that's another factor too.
Mhm.
Anyhow,
Yeah. I mean, it was a great race, and Safan Hassan reigned supreme, and
let's go back to Dakota a little bit. She needs a little more love, but I thought she raced great. I thought it was really fun to see her have that moment where she was in the lead, and
mhm.
it was really clear, I think, to both of us that she wasn't doing anything crazy.
Yes.
She'd fallen back, and then it looks like she's doing these weird surges. It's like, oh no, no, she's running
She's just
exactly
probably
where she.
running pretty even, doing her thing, listening to her body where they were a little bit more all over the place. It was cool to see her run with so much confidence. Remember, this isn't a person who has like all this pedigree, hasn't like doesn't have a podium at a major, just a person who one of the things I love about Dakota is her self-belief is like if people could tap into that, if I could have some of her self-belief or other people, like it would change the world. Like she just believes. And it was so cool to see her out there and then like actually enjoying herself. And when she finished, she was so happy. And I don't know, it was really cool seeing her out there. It was really fun. And it
And
was
I'm gonna give that one of our top fives.
that's perfect. Yes.
We're in the
Olipop.
Olipop top five. Number one is Dakota Lindworm and her amazing Olympic race.
Mhm.
I'm going to plug Olipop a little bit. Check out the show details for a coupon code, and please support them. We give them some love during the Olympic shows, but this is a big top five for them.
Yeah.
And Dakota starts the list.
I like that. I'm going to also stick with the marathon theme and
Mhm.
say one of my moments was the high five between Clayton Young and Connor Mance. I loved it so much. I wanted to re-show it a million times, but we didn't have we were beholden to World Feed and they showed it once. But it just is super cool to see two people who are spend so much time together on that stage running their hearts out but enjoying it and acknowledging each other in the moment. It was really cool and I love their friendship and I love that moment.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Um, I'm gonna go with Bryce Hoppel.
Oh, stole it from
Right?
me.
He didn't get the medal, but he won our hearts.
Yeah.
And he did it. What a year. He's like really lifted the event. And I think he's carrying along Hobbs Kessler and,
Yes.
the 800-meter men as a whole. So there's a lot on his shoulders, but he's handling it well. And man, it's heartbreaking to not win the medal, but when you put it all out there, what else are you going to do? So,
I agree. That was awesome. Okay, number 4 is going to be obvious, but I think Grant Fisher deserves another tip of the hat for what he did for Team USA. He had everyone, whether you're a sprinter, thrower, anyone, excited, and just showing that when preparation and opportunity and self belief meet, like incredible things happen. So I was super happy to see him get another medal in the 5. He kind of started this crazy trend and he got to end it on Saturday night because the men's marathon was done at that point. And I just felt like he earned that moment again, right? After like starting it all off. I just so impressed by him this past year, and his decision making and his dedication is unbelievable. Good job,
All
Grant.
right. It's a lot of dudes, but that's okay. You know what?
I
U.S. men's distance
they
dominated
crushed. They
every
crushed.
event, medals in every event, but the men's 800, where Hoppel set the American record and was just so close. So bravo to them. They can have a few of the top
They
fives.
get to own it a little bit. A little bit.
All right. So number five, number one of the top five has to be Chris McClung, the man behind
Yes.
the scenes of the pod, who was on a totally different time zone
Yeah.
and figured it out. He was like, yes, I will listen to you guys and put these podcasts together and get them up and add the show notes and make sure people can hear these recaps when they're still interesting and relevant. So his hard work behind the scenes, but we love it. We appreciate it. Thank you, Chris.
I think
Very
the
much.
first one we did, he was in Mexico and he was up at 2 o'clock or something a.m. to do it and then edit it and then turn it around. So, we were like, oh, we're tired, but we were like going to bed and stuff. And so, yeah, big time, Chris. Thank you, because those shows wouldn't have happened without him. If it was just you and I there, we would have been like, we'll just recap it when we get back.
To an Instagram live on a boat.
Yeah.
Just like, absolutely not. That will not do. You need to do a show. Okay, we'll make it happen.
So good.
Great teamwork and a really fun experience all around, I think.
Super fun. And thanks everyone for listening. Like everyone was giving us such good feedback and love. And so hopefully you guys keep listening. We're glad that we gave you content to listen to. Like the people who have told us they listened to the Olympics or felt like they knew more because we were chatting about it. Like that means a lot to us. That's basically what we're trying to do here is get you guys invested and make you guys feel like you understand what's going on, and you do. And it's like the feedback has been really fun, and we appreciate everybody for
Absolutely.
yeah. Hopefully everyone's not mad at us after today.
Look, it's an event. Like, here's the kind of event, and that's the thing is like it's fine to have conversations. You can put comments in the notes on our Instagram, on our YouTube, wherever you want. But have a conversation. Let's not have a fight. And
Yeah.
I won't fight with you. I'm done fighting. Day one is when I stuck my neck out for Fiona because I knew exactly how she felt. But I'm just now. Let's just have some conversations.
Yeah. I love
How's
that.
that?
It's
All
great.
right.
All right.
Cheers.